Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, November 18th, and this is episode 7 of The Holistic Alternative. I am Julie Ann Mejia, and today we have a phenomenal guest joining us, a board-certified pediatric physician who ran a solo practice for 43 years, a member of the Massachusetts Medical Society, an advocate for bringing awareness to medical cannabis use, and a qualifying pediatric cannabis physician that works with the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission to assist pediatric patients and their families with gaining safe access to receive their medical cannabis cards, just to name a few. Today, we welcome Dr. Eric Ruby to the show. And Dr. Ruby, welcome, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. And I will try to explain and elaborate on your questions over the next 40 minutes.
No, I appreciate that. We're going to dive right in. Dr. Ruby, if you wouldn't mind, can you just take a moment to explain what your acronym at the top of the screen, FAAP, means, and how did this, your son's injury actually set you on the pathway to supporting medical cannabis usage?
I can do that. First of all, I want to thank you. Gratitude is always important. And you are responsible for allowing me this opportunity. Holistic Hemp Solutions is your moniker. And I want to thank Dr. Jacqueline Kerbick, owner of USA Global TV and Radio and producer of this segment. So you're welcome. Children used to call me Dr. Duty instead of Dr. Ruby. Maybe it was easier to remember. But mothers used to say, why are you a FAP, Dr. Ruby? And I would say, no, that's fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And it took me about 30 years to get there. You take special courses in college that are all science. You go to medical school. So 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school. And then internship, residency, fellowship. And in my case, 2 years in the military. So
thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I never picked up a gun and I never shot at anybody. All I did was see children. I went in.
Still important.
So I will say, even though they called me a FAP occasionally, once a year, because I'm Dr. Ruby, somebody would say, Dr. Ruby, you're a gem of a doctor. So I will take that. So just getting to it, by the time I was 30, I opened up my practice. And I will say that in college and in medical school, cannabis was out there. And that was in the 60s.
Right.
And my training in California, also cannabis was out there. It was 4%, not 16%. In the Air Force, there was one physician who was caught using cannabis. He ended up in Leavenworth Prison. So we do need to talk about the stigma. But to be a board certified pediatrician, they don't even let you take the exams until you've been in practice for a couple of years. And I will say it was in 2000 that my son was injured. He was struck by an automobile and he was paralyzed. And he had central neuropathic pain. And he was suicidal. The issues surrounding that were well-meaning doctors used what was available to treat him, and he became addicted to opioids. He was not in good shape, but he found that using cannabis took away his central neuropathic pain. And at that point, I said, if you use cannabis in Massachusetts in 2000, 2010, you're going to end up in jail, and they do not have very good facilities for wheelchairs. So he did move to Colorado, and that took years before he figured out exactly what to do. He did move back to the Northeast. And at that point, I said, if they ever make cannabis legal, I need to be able to help other people. So, when the personal becomes political, that's when you get moving. And that's something I have learned with my involvement with the Mass Medical Society and the American Academy of Pediatrics. But I took courses and I read as much as I could. And when cannabis became legal medicinally in 2014 in Massachusetts, I was one of the first pediatricians to sign up. Since that time, I have treated over 500 patients.
Wow.
However, the stigma and the fear and the ignorance is still there. Yes, cannabis medicinally is now in 38 states and the District of Columbia and territories, but it's in only 24 states where there is responsible adult usage. Some people call it recreational. It's still in Schedule 1. It needs to be moved out. I was hoping that it would. It needs to be under the aegis of the Bureau of Firearms, Tobacco, and Liquor, because it should not be scheduled whatsoever. It is significantly less deleterious than tobacco, than alcohol, and the opioids. And we have too many problems with suicide, too many problems with gun control, and put the accent on the right syllable. If you want to control things in our country, control guns, control tobacco, control alcohol, and get rid of what is called the implicit problem with calling it marijuana. It is not marijuana. It is cannabis. Cannabis is
Agreed.
a plant. Cannabis is a medication.
And that's a scientific name for it. And that's always been the scientific name. Over 80 years ago, you used to be able to go to a pharmacy and get cannabis prescribed for a variety of health concerns.
Well, it was legal until 1938, between 1938 and 1942, because of William Randolph Hearst and a movie called Reefer Madness. The government changed the rules. Fiorello LaGuardia in the 40s said, this is not a medical problem, this is a public health problem. And by 1972, when Richard Nixon created the Schaefer Report, he was caught on tape saying, we're going to make this illegal because I am going to be able to arrest the hippies and the people of color. He didn't use that word. If this is illegal. And they told him, this is a public health problem. This is not a medical problem. It has remained this way for 50 years. We need to do something about it. And we, meaning all of us who are listening. the qualifying diseases and debilitating medical conditions for cannabis medicinally in the 30-something states: anxiety, depression, PTSD, insomnia, epilepsy, um, multiple sclerosis, pain, particularly back pain and chronic pain, and spasticity, neuropathic pain, nausea and vomiting, anorexia from chemotherapy, Crohn's disease, Tourette syndrome, psoriasis and eczema as creams, migraines, behavior control and autism, which is what I do mostly. And the list goes on.
No,
But
I get it. And I agree. And, unfortunately, there is such heavy stigma because it's been illegal for so long that it's developed stigma. Let's talk a little bit about your personal experience, just having a conversation with me in regards to some of the stigma you've seen within the medical community.
at the level of the Mass Medical Society, I was not one of their favorites because I kept on pointing out the benefits of medicinal and the benefits of doing the research, doing the education. And they did not change their policy easily. And then that was 2014. 2016, it became recreational. So it was tough for the Mass Medical Society to go on record as against it no matter what.
Right.
So they changed the policy. The statement is if you have an issue, at the beginning they say no way, at the middle they say you're crazy, and then in 10 years they say, gee, that's self-evident. So right now we're pretty much self-evident in that the official policy of the Mass Medical Society, public health, is for education and for research. However, there is another committee on addiction and substance abuse, and the two different policies are really at opposite ends of the spectrum. I think it's important to acknowledge that there can be a problem when used incorrectly, but that is true for any medication, and that is true for almost everything. That's why we say everything in moderation. So
Correct.
when I do my 1 hour plus consultations for cannabis with the parents, I say that you need to learn, because the more you learn, the more you can help your child. And I give them a list of online information. It's all about the endocannabinoid system. It's understanding CB1, CB2 receptors. I did write an article that was published in the summer of 2016 that said even our own Academy of Pediatrics, as early as January of 15, recognized that, quotes, marijuana may currently be an option for cannabinoid administration for children with life-limiting or severely disabling conditions and for whom current therapies are inadequate. I received not one comment from any physicians, summer of 2016.
It's scary. It's scary because, again, parents would rather put their children on these harmful pharmaceuticals with severe side effects that alter children's life. And I feel that cannabinoid therapies that I've, worked with pediatric families as well, they're giving children back their lives in their childhood.
That is exactly what happens. That they say the other medications make them into zombies.
Yep.
And this takes the edge off. This helps with whatever the symptom control is, the target symptoms, I call it. And even the American Medical Association felt that physicians need to learn more, because they say whenever possible, and this was published in JAMA, whenever possible, the medical cannabis certification and associated follow-up should be handled by the clinician treating the medical condition and not a clinician who only provides certificates for medical cannabis use. So I shouldn't really have to do this. I am very concerned about the Cannabis Control Commission because this is the Constitution of the United States. It is, with all of the amendments, it's a little tiny book, and it's 38 pages. These are the 270 pages of the regulations put out by the DPH.
Yep.
That is insane.
It is.
These
It's
are not-
absolutely disgusting to have such, red tape essentially
These
to
are,
get
I call it,
access.
bureaucratic barriers. It's
There you
not
go.
safety. When they want this controlled and regulated and done properly, if you make it so difficult for doctors to sign up, if you make it so difficult for patients to sign up, they're going to go to the black market, they're going to grow it themselves, or they're going to buy the adult recreational medicine and use it without supervision.
Right.
This
Which
is
is dangerous.
absolutely government interference. It is not safety. And I have, over the last week or two, gone over all of my letters to the Cannabis Control Commission, to the Senate, to the House in Massachusetts about what can be done, because that's one of our questions. I don't want to run out of time.
No, we're doing great. And let's talk about that, because you and I have worked diligently on trying to figure out how we support pediatric families with gaining safe access to cannabinoid therapies in a school, in a residential setting. So let's talk about some of those barriers that we've kind of encountered with trying to advocate for families.
Okay, so S51 was out there. It never moved. And I wrote articles to show the benefit of being able to give cannabis in school as a 1990 federal law, Americans with Disability Association. It passed that you cannot restrict medication for someone who's disabled. And
Right.
if you can't give medicine in school, and this is medicine, like an antibiotic by a school nurse or somebody assigned to it, we're not peddling cannabis on campus.
Right.
We're restricting this to the nurse's office. I can't have, as they suggested, have the mother come to school, take the child out of the classroom, go into the car, give the medication, go back into school. That is disruptive. That does not work. So
I agree.
you have to give it early in the morning or in the morning, as soon as the child gets home from school, and perhaps a third dose at night. But going back to the American Academy of Pediatrics and the MMS, it doesn't mean that adolescents vape 8 times a day. When I hear that then they don't get a certification.
No, I agree. And you know what? That some of these medical conditions, they don't even use psychoactive cannabinoids. Some of these conditions, for example, we have pediatric patients that take our product with CBDA, CBGA. It's non-psychoactive, but it helps manage and mitigate seizures.
Okay,
So,
this is about education. And
correct.
I tell them cannabis is 5 medicines. It's all THC, it's all CBD and derivatives. It is equal amounts of CBD, THC. It is large amounts of THC, CBD. It is large amounts of CBD over THC. It's called trial and success. And Bonnie Goldstein, who is really the key person in pediatric cannabis, and by the way, if you haven't seen the video, Weed the People, I'm in it too.
Right.
Her book is called Cannabis is Medicine. And I really, if you want to learn about cannabis, that's how you do it. And chapter by chapter, page or two on what your target symptom is, it's there. It's called Cannabis is Medicine, Bonnie Goldstein. And by the way, I'm going to talk about 3 other physicians in Massachusetts who
Right,
also,
because you're only one qualifying pediatric physician, right? So,
it's unbelievable. One of the things, and you ask what to do,
yep,
uh, the Board of Registration in Medicine has to release who is giving these certifications. They will not. You can get all kinds of information from the Board of Education, a Board of Medicine, but you can't get that information. And the Cannabis Control Commission refuses to put it out there. That's wrong. If you want a doctor for a particular problem, you look at specialties and there it is. And
right.
you can't find that for cannabis. So the other people who don't know it, but I'm going to say their names, Ben Kaplan, who is CED Foundation, dedicated to promoting usage and knowledge. He's in Massachusetts.
He's a great guy. I know him well.
Okay. Uma, whose last name I cannot pronounce, who's at Total Health Care, Uplifting Health and Wellness, whose moniker is Educate, Embrace, and Empower. And she talks a lot about the endocannabinoid system. And the last person, and both of those are MDs, Hong Truong, who is a DO, and he has Hope Integrative Care. And those are the other three physicians that I work with. And I'll tell you why I have to work with them. Because you need 2 physicians to certify. That's nuts.
That's insane.
It's
Not
insane.
even for adult population do we need 2 qualifying physicians. So why are we putting extra barriers on a population that needs assistance the most? Unreal.
Somebody didn't want this to happen. And there was fight against this in 2014. There was fight against this in 2016. And finally, and then the regulations, these regulations didn't come out until 2018. It took them 2 more years after it was already passed.
I know, it's insane.
Is bureaucratic barrier to the point that it's a disservice to the people who elect them.
I couldn't agree more. It's
So,
terrible. And patients suffer.
I also want to say that I did speak. The Cannabis Control Commission sent 3 people to my office early on, even before they called themselves the Cannabis Control Commission. Britt McBride, Jennifer Flanagan, and Shailene Teetle.
Yep.
And I said, if there's one thing you do, take the word marijuana out of the equation. Call it cannabis. And that's how we ended up with the Cannabis Control Commission, not the marijuana Control Commission. So for that, I am thankful. However, all of the other things that I asked for, and I have asked for, establish a pediatric subcommittee because they're too interested in everything else. And children are an afterthought. Continue with telehealth. 1 provider, not 2. The certification and registration the dates need to coincide. There's a big problem there. And IT can make the process much better. It used to be 27 pages that I would fill out. Now it's only 9 on the internet, but there are still problems. Cannabis must be able to be used in school and hospitals and residential facilities. The education has to be out there. Decrease the stigma. Don't call it marijuana anymore. Call it cannabis. Take the word marijuana out of these 271 pages.
I agree. I think on a federal scale, it should be called by its scientific name because marijuana and that word has, derogatory context to the Mexican community. And it's very, very hurtful for those individuals.
We are into equality and diversity and inclusion.
Correct.
And unless you are a real hypocrite, which unfortunately a lot of people are, you're going to keep calling it marijuana because of the implications. And I don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 years.
Well, hopefully we see things move forward in a positive trajectory.
Right.
A lot of people, we're going to give Mr. Trump the opportunity to do the right thing, but I'm hopeful that Mr. Kennedy will take some advocacy for these natural products and support them like he stated he was going to do with his election. So we're going to see how this unfolds. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. What they say and what they do are very different.
Politics. Exactly.
Politics.
I agree.
Okay. At the dispensary, and by the way, in Massachusetts, if you go to potguide.com, put in your address, put in your zip code, you will find something close by. Look at the menu, decide what you want. Don't go and just buy what's on sale, but always when you have a behavior problem or an epilepsy problem, anxiety, whatever it is, go for your target symptoms. And you may have to have 3 different medications, but it is very expensive. And understand it is expensive. And it is not covered by insurance. And the visits to me are not covered by insurance. And actually I was on another committee where I said this needs to be covered by insurance.
So how do we do that as a society? How do we break through those healthcare barriers in regards to getting medical coverage for patients in the healthcare system?
People in Massachusetts have to write to their individual senators and individual representatives at the Massachusetts State House, because when you write to somebody in your community, they know that they need your vote.
Right.
And be specific. Don't go into, everything I write to them is 1 page or maybe 2, and I bullet point everything. I don't know who reads it or doesn't read it, but the only time I actually felt that they listened to me was when they came to my office and used the word cannabis instead of marijuana. After that, nobody's listened.
Well, and that's to your point. I think they should have more of a hands-on approach and involvement with physicians. Hey, they should be checking in quarterly to say, what can we do to continue supporting you? What have you noticed that has been a challenge within the current system? But no one's ever reached out to you or Dr. Kaplan. Is that correct?
Correct. I can't tell for Dr. Kaplan, but I know for me, no one's reached out to me in years. But I will tell you, there is one person at the Cannabis Control Commission that I talk to, and she is understanding and helpful. And I send the information to her or call her. And her name is Kathy Oliver Jones.
Yep.
And maybe you have her name and number also. But
she's a lovely lady.
She is very helpful. She's on your side when registration doesn't go through. And again, I need to stress the fact that you need 2 physicians to do the certification, and you need a registration, which again is that 6 to 9 pages that I mentioned.
So let's take a step back for a second. We talked about some of the barriers in regards to gaining safe access in a school and a residential program. I know you and I have both diligently talked to the commission. They're passing the buck. They're saying that it has nothing to do with them. I know I've personally reached out to, the Board of Health. They said that there's a statute within the law in regards to medical cannabis that makes it protective for nurses not to prescribe these products.
Okay, it's within this. And I said, rewrite it. You can take out a line item, you can fix it. And they can fix it.
So we need to amend it. We need to have people call. We need to continue to push forward in regards to medical advocacy, because it's such a disservice for a child to go into a classroom and not be able to have safe access at school or a residential program should they need it in the event of emergencies. And these products can be life-saving.
The key pages for modification, addition, and deletion are from page 270 to 279,
Okay.
501.006-501.025. You can do it. It's doable. It hasn't been done. And that would be for school. The other issues that at the level of the dispensary, they have to label things clearly. They do not label the bottles clearly. We'll have to talk in terms of milligram per dose. Reciprocity for patients certified in other states, and absolutely list the available cannabis consultants so that people can, if this is for the Commonwealth, if this is for the people, then at least allow people to find people that can help them. So to me, this is a lot of things can be done. It won't get done unless people individually call their state reps and state senators. Whatever happens in Washington, no, I don't know.
Right.
But it's
concerning. It's concerning that we're at this point, this far along. We've had it legal for so many years, and we're still facing significant barriers. So I think, just getting the information out there like we're doing today, we're talking about it, we're having a conversation. People are not aware of what to do or how to approach it. So I think giving them guidance and talking about it, that's going to be the first step. So I commend you for doing this call today with me, because it's important information to get out there.
Well, I have lots more to talk about, but I think that the gist of it is what you just said.
No, I appreciate that. And let's talk about some of the other initiatives that you're working on. We have a few more minutes before, we're wrapping up, but, let's talk a little bit about your other initiatives, like your Death with Dignity. What are you working on in regards to that right now in the Commonwealth?
Well, as you know, choice is important.
Yes.
And people need to be able to choose how a peaceful death. Palliative care works, hospice works, but 25% of people who are dying over the age of 18 with a terminal disease, meaning they would die within 6 months, should have a choice. It's called autonomy.
I agree.
It's the same thing with cannabis. People need to have a choice. And my thought is, for those 25% of people who are in hospice or are seeking palliative care, they can ask, again, to physicians, and in Massachusetts, the way End of Life Options Act is out there. And by the way, we've been trying to have this conversation since 2012, when it was a ballot question. It
I remember
was
that.
defeated at the last minute by the Catholic Church and the disability organizations. And seriously, that was what happened. Over the course of time, when the discussion was out there and women lost their reproductive rights and their ability to choose what they wanted, this was, again, more evident we went to the Joint Committee on Public Health, Joint Committee on Public Health Finance. It passed both of them. It went to the Ways and Means. I've testified every 2 years on this. It can't get past Ron Mariano, the Speaker of the House. It will never get past him. Our House, I'm sorry to say, even with a Democratic majority, they're in gridlock. And if you read the Boston Globe on the editorial page, they even suggest that if they can't get things done, get somebody else who can get it done. So medical aid in dying is available in 11 states, should be available across the country, because people should be able to choose and not be legislated against it. It is not suicide. It is a choice. to have a peaceful death. I have a lot more information about that, but you mentioned something else. And the something else is really about where my son came from and his problem. In 2004, when we realized that he was paralyzed and he was not going to get any better, I went to my representative and my senator locally, and we spoke about trying to raise money for research. And they agreed. And we got a bill out there, and it's called Spinal Cord Injury Trust Fund. And we've raised $6 million since 2004 for research. And I have researchers at Harvard, at Boston Medical Center, at the Children's Hospital, Brigham and Women's, and one other.
No, that's great. That's phenomenal, because we really need that support and that backing evidence to show that these products work for a variety of conditions.
So I have had a very prominent lawyer speak about the legality of cannabis. And I can tell you, when I have Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Day at the State House once a year, because I'm head of something called Massachusetts Walks Again because of my son, many of them have pain. Many of them have spasticity. Many of them have anxiety or depression. And if they're honest with you, they will tell you that they have used cannabis.
Right.
Cannabis is out there. Cannabis is a treatment. Cannabis should be much more readily available without the stigma. There are too many significant problems with all these other FDA approved medications. So yes, I have a three-pronged approach that keep me busy in my, quote, retirement.
Yeah.
My cannabis advocacy, and medical aid in dying, and spinal cord injury.
No, I appreciate all the amazing work that you do for the community in several facets in regards to education and supporting families, and your legislation as well. So, I mean, I can't thank you enough for all your support and all the work that you do. And we're about to come to the end of the segment. Is there anything else you'd like to tell viewers before we put up your information on how families that might need assistance might contact you?
Yes, I'm very happy to help. However, if they become my patients, lately, it's been a little more complicated in terms of some of the diseases and target symptoms that I've been treating. And the initial consultation, I do a lot of research to make sure that we're not going to interfere. There can be liver toxicity problems when you use high doses of CBD. But most of the time, it does work. But knowing all of the information takes time, and doing all of the data on the website takes time. So I do charge for that. And lately, when people call me back, because they do, it is not a quick visit. It takes time. I still carry my credentials. I have to do that for Massachusetts, for the DEA, for federally, and I have to have malpractice insurance. So things are expensive, and my accountant has said, this is not a hobby. You're still
right. No, it's a job, and you're trying to provide a quality service for people.
So I know it's expensive to get my information, but I think people find it worth it, and they do, and they can find me again. I don't hide, but the follow-up visits now I'm going to start charging for. I didn't in the past, but it's just getting out of hand. So in order to do the intake, I need to know the last 4 digits of a social security number. And I do ask people now. At one point, Somebody said, "Do you want to have the other information for other doctors?" And I said, "Of course." And they brought in a suitcase. I don't
Wow.
have time to read a suitcase.
No,
So
I
that's
get
why I
it.
wrote down a summary of the disability in chronologic order, just one page, a list of the medications, one page, and to fill out this. And then I asked for $250. And they get a full hour. Some of them are an hour and a half. This past weekend, I did two of them that were, one was an hour and a half, and that was a first time visit. And the second one was a follow up, which was about another hour. So it really does, and almost missed the football game because of it. But
Well, thank you for your time and all you do for the community. And we're over our time today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Is there anything else you'd like to end the segment with before we finish up?
I would say it's trial and success. Don't give up. This is your child. We need to work together. Um, all of these medications, it's a pardon me, it's a joint privilege of both the parent and the physician. And I just wish more physicians would be more understanding of this. Knowledge is power, and a physician who says, I don't understand it or I don't know it, medicine is lifelong learning. They got to learn. And maybe they have other things to do. That's fine. But at least say, I'll give you somebody's name who can help you. And don't just say it doesn't work.
Thank you, Dr. Ruby. I really appreciate you taking the time today and hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.
Well, thank you.
Take care. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll have another beautiful guest next month, and have a beautiful day. And thank you for USA Global TV and Radio for all that you do for our beautiful community. Have a great one. Take care.